Vic Schaefer is here to talk Texas women's basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, reminding you that we want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. You can subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts or over on Twitter at Locked On WBB. We are here every weekday and, of course, on Saturdays, too, with a special WNBA Draft weekly podcast that we're doing. Make sure you're following all the work we're doing. It's not just me. It is our entire team over at thenexthoops.com. We have over 100 reported pieces on women's basketball every single month. We got the great Tyler DeLuca on the Big 12 and a team that is as intriguing as any in, I would argue, not just the Big 12, but the country, is Texas, where Vic Schaefer is doing what Vic does wherever he goes, and that is building a fascinating, interesting program and a must-watch. So, Vic, great to see you as always. Thanks for being with us. I want to start, though, by just talking to you about what it has felt like to be home. I know we talked about this when you took the job, where you took the opportunity, a chance to return to your roots. Here we are a couple of years in, unconventional years to be sure for everyone, but just take me through just what that has been like for you to this point.
Yeah, well, first of all, Howard, thanks for having us today, and really appreciate the opportunity. And again, appreciate all you do for our great game. It's been really, been great. I mean, it's obviously these first 2 years have been different adverse situations with COVID and things of that nature. I think we're finally getting back to some type of normalcy. But it's been good to be, I'm here in an office that's one block from where I was born. The hospital's not there anymore. That kind of gives you an idea of how long I've been around. But it's great to be back close to home. I'm 65 miles from where my parents are both buried, where I grew up on weekends at grandma's house. 3.5 hours from my sister, who's 14 and a half years older than I am. And so, it is great. I'm obviously at a place I'm very familiar with, have tremendous amount of respect and admiration for, and feel like it's the best job in the country. So our job now is to, build a program here that year in and year out, much like we did at Mississippi State, is in that top 10 and competing for championships. And so, we've been really fortunate in the first 2 years here. We made back-to-back Elite Eights, but it gets harder and harder, and it's kind of the nature of the beast. And there's so much parity in our league now, as you know, and so every year brings a new beginning. We certainly have a new team this year with 7 new players and 7 returners, and so I think we've had 16 practices. And, we got a lot of work to do, and we really don't have much time to do it.
You talked about when you were hired, this is your quote. You said, "I was hired to bring a top 10 program to Texas. We want to be a top 10 program year in and year out." You're saying something similar here, but you also said something interesting that I caught my ear when I was on the Zoom with you post-game after the Elite Eight last year, where you said, "We're just starting." And I just think it's interesting to me because you talked about, that you're at the beginning of a process, and obviously the team's so different. We're going to get into some of those differences because they are fascinating, particularly through the prism of the way you play year in and year out. But, back-to-back Elite Eights, quite frankly, feels like that's meeting the standard you set for where you were looking to get to. So just tell me what did you mean by "we're just starting"? And, what's kind of next in your mind as far as that goes?
Yeah, I just think, again, those teams, those first 2 years, man, they really embraced, a new way of doing things. And, change is hard, and it's hard to get past hard, especially for young people. But, I just feel like we had so many limitations in those first couple of years. And now, hopefully some of those restrictions are off from, and so we've got to, we're now in year 3. That first Elite 8 team, Howard, we ran, we had a couple of really big wins against some really good teams in UCLA and Maryland, teams we probably weren't supposed to beat. But you've followed my career. I've been in those games a lot, and we tend to win some of those games that we're not supposed to win, and so those teams really were, special in my mind, just because they were able to do something I don't think they thought they could do. Mm-hmm. Now, once we had gotten to the Elite 8, we run into a great, South Carolina team that was just better than us, and we just didn't have much in the tank. We played 6.5 kids all year long and didn't change how we played. Mm-hmm. Last year's team, a little disappointed at the end of the year, to be honest. I felt like we were the better team. We'd already beaten Stanford once at their place, and I felt like we were good enough to get to the Final Four, and we didn't get it done. The thing you have to understand about being at a place like the University of Texas, we've won back-to-back Learfield Cup, which honors the best all-around athletic program in the country. Mm-hmm. You take into consideration this. Okay, we finished, I think, 5th or 6th in the country last year in the Elite 8. At Texas, that doesn't even get you in the top half of 19 sports. We had 4 national championship teams and 6 teams that finished 2nd in the country. Yeah. So our Elite 8 and number 5, number 6 in the country finish, that doesn't even get you in the top half here at Texas in sports. And so, as well as I do, top 10 programs, big difference between that and a top 25 team. Mm-hmm. Numbers 13 through 25, 13 through 30, those teams are real fluid throughout the course of the season. 1 through 10, they're pretty solid. Mm-hmm. Those teams don't come and go. They're in. So year in and year out, if you have a top 10 program, when your fans get the newspaper and they go, okay, where's my team preseason? They don't usually look 11 through 25. Mm-hmm. They're looking in the top. Okay, where are we ranked in the top 10? And so that's our goal here at Texas, is to be that team and have that program where year in and year out, we're competing for conference championships. And then if you can win a conference championship, whether in our current league in the Big 12 or in the SEC where we're headed, as well as I do, you got a chance then to go pretty far in the NCAA tournament and win that championship. So that's our goal. And, we've had to replace some kids now with recruiting. We've had a couple of really good recruiting classes, and I'm hopeful in this next one that we're fixing to have. So, it's just a lot of work to be done. And we are, in my mind, we are just getting started. And hopefully when you're in the number 1 city in America, you can enjoy the things that provides, the food, the entertainment, all those things. We've just been really handcuffed, in these first 2 years.
Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks gives you the opportunity to test your own knowledge against yourself. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they go on to score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. It's not competing against other people. It's you versus the projection. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport you watch, everything from women's college basketball to the WNBA to National Women's Soccer League, NBA, NFL, MLB, you name it. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. We've got an offer for you. 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit 100, PrizePicks gives you 100. 50, they give you 50. Use code Locked On, LOCKEDON, for that instant deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Yeah, no question about it. And, to have the full measure of Austin behind you. I mean, listen, I know what you did in Starkville, Mississippi, and turning that into Start Vegas. and fundamentally changed the conversation around that delightfully, because I got to go do a story about you guys down there. I got to eat at Little Dewey's.
Yeah.
But with all due respect to Starkville, my chance to go down there and do a story in Austin is going to be next level. So you're right. It's a different level of experience, to be sure. But there's even just a buy-in that goes beyond, to me, that comes with a Vic Schaefer team. And the number I always look at with you guys, and I'm a stat junkie as far as this goes, is defensive points per possession. And when you're at Mississippi State, those teams, no matter who you had on the floor, were top 30, and the latter half of it are top 10 in the country. You were coming in, with everything you had to. You were still a top 100 team your first year with the team you inherited. You were 15th in the country in defensive points per possession last year in just year two. We know it takes a while. We know it takes a good amount to be able to bring your folks in. And I guess the question I have for you, and I don't know what the answer to this is how do you get people, regardless, wherever you go, to be buying in on the defensive end? And when did you see this team this past year really find that gear, to be playing like a Vic Schaefer team?
Yeah, I think it's how you practice. I think those first two teams we had here, we were limited offensively.
Yeah.
I had to convince that first team, look, we're not going to go beat anybody 90 to 88, y'all. And if we don't guard and hold people under 60, we're not going to win. Mm-hmm. And it took getting late in the season. We were just kind of stumbling around and we weren't very good. And you have to also embrace the fact that at Texas, there's such a tremendous history here and tradition. And I have so much respect and admiration for Coach Conrad and Chris Plonsky, Kathy Harston. Those are pioneers that really, created and developed this program, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And so, that's where I'm trying to get it back to, right? Get it back to that where every year you're mentioned in the conversation. And so, but back to your question. So I think defensively, it's what you do every day. It's that expectation that you have every day on how we're going to do it. Again, it's a saying in our locker room. It's not what we do, but how we do it that separates us from the rest of the country. And so I think that's kind of, what we've had to embrace, because we just have been limited skill set wise offensively. Mm-hmm. And then last year, we had lost 2 games at home in the conference that probably shouldn't be losing. And we had to go on the road at Texas Tech, and we rolled in there and held them to 56. And at that point, that was really a knockdown, drag out. It's a game that they really hold in high regard, and they had already come in here and upset us. And so our kids really responded. And then from that moment on, I thought we really started gelling offensively as well as defensively. Your chemistry on defense is kind of the last thing you get mm-hmm. with a team, in my opinion. And so we just kept, I said it the first year I was here. I said it last year when we were kind of stumbling around a little bit. I'm not giving in. I know what it looks like. We're going to keep working. They're going to get it. You just hope they get it sooner than later. But, we went, and then I tell you, I put Shay Holle in the starting lineup. Yeah. And she went on, our team went on a 14-game winning streak with her starting opposite Joanne Allen Taylor. And that really helped. We were turning the ball over too much. We were making some really bad decisions, fouling. And so it just put a kid on the floor that didn't do those things. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that was really a big key for us. As you know, last year's team, we held people to 56 points a game. And that's really good. You're playing really hard when you're doing that. We lose to Stanford 59-50. We held them under 60. That's our goal. Mm-hmm. You just got to score more than 50 points if you're going to win that game, on that stage at that time of year. So, but I think it really exposed us again to our offensive inadequacies that we've really had. And so, hopefully this team this year, I know we're better offensively. My concern is that we might not be as good defensively. I don't care how we win. I just want to win. We can win 100-98. I'm good with that. But, I think every team's different, and this year is a little bit different than what we've had.
It is, and we should get into it for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's worth noting, obviously, you avenge the Kansas loss, you avenge the Texas Tech loss, you go out, for our audience who don't know, from February 6th to March 27th, you didn't lose a game, so it was very much, you're 15th in the country in defensive points per possession, but over that period of time, you were 5th. So
Yeah.
it was another step forward, and you're doing it. Again, Shay Holle's coming back. Shay Holle she made few mistakes. Her shooting efficiency, obviously, is sort of where you see the limitations out of last year. What are you seeing out of her on the offensive end this year? And is she more of a true two-way player for you coming in this year?
Well, Shay's our most athletic and our fastest kid. I mean, she makes plays because she's athletic and fast. I mean, I've seen her chase kids down in transition and pin the ball on the backboard. Mm-hmm. And, I always, during our preseason conditioning on the track, I always worry the track coach is going to come out there because he's going to want her to be a heptathlete, She's just super, super athletic and quick, plays really hard, tough kid, comes from a really competitive family. Dad played at Texas football. So, mm-hmm. I think what we have right now in Shay is a real confident kid. I think she knows what we want, how we want it. She's continued to work on her shot and her ball handling. I think if it was in here right now, she'd say, yeah, I've got to get a little bit better ball handling, from a ball handling perspective. And so she continues to work on that. And, but a great kid, never, not one, she's never having a bad day. Like that kid's always having a good day. And as a coach, man, you really have to appreciate and respect somebody like that in today's world. And again, Shay just wants to win. Like she's got no ego. She's got no itinerary. She just wants to win. And she's here to help her team win. And so, again, for me as a coach, it's really refreshing.
And, a winning player, obviously, along those lines is Rori Harmon. And, there's obviously so much to be said. And, my two things that really stood out when I saw Rori for the first time were just the way in which she was specifically a U type of player. And the number that best illustrates that for me is that she had a defensive rebounding percentage last year as a freshman at 15.6% at, let's be charitable, 5'6" listed,
charitable.
So, to be able to do that, number one, what is in her that allowed her to be, your quarterback on the court as a freshman, a very, very difficult thing to do. And then number two, just, how does she want it that much that she's able to put up a defensive rebounding percentage like that in among trees where everyone's taller than she is?
Well, again, we're she's the only freshman All-American in the history of Texas women's basketball. Think about that statement. Yeah. It's crazy. And, she's just an ultra competitive kid, tough. You got to give her parents a tremendous amount of credit. Her dad has done a great job working with her and creating the mentality that she has, which matches mine. And I think that's where she and I have such a great bond, is that we both get it. We both have the same desire, the same, vision and view of what the game should look like. If you could hear her talk in our practice right now, you'd go, okay, she's heard that before, and so you just, that kid is special, as we all know. And really, I thought when we were making that run and winning 14 in a row, like she really started to play better.
Yeah.
You know, not that she was playing bad, but she really started to play better. Not like a freshman, consistent. And then her confidence really took off. Made some big shots for us down the stretch. I mean, you watch that championship game in the Big 12 tournament, the kid she's just got so much confidence about her and understands who needs the ball, when they need it, where they need it. And then also is a threat herself. It's been a while since I've had a scoring point guard like her. And so it's, you know, I tell her all the time, you know, your team's going to feed off of you. And, you know, if you're slow, if you're not doing your job on the ball, everybody behind you is going to be really soft too. If you're really good on the ball, you're active, you're playing your guts out, everybody behind you is going to play their guts out too. And that's the impact that she has on the floor with our team. And I've seen it already take shape with this team and how our new players, Sonia and Shay Holle, are playing now with her and behind her. Shay knows, she gets it. Shay's been with her. She understands it. Then you throw in a Jakalenga, who's Gatorade Player of the Year out of South Dakota, big 6'2", 6'3", 3-player. Those kids see it and they get it. They understand it. It's one thing for me to talk about it and ask for it. It's another thing to see one player doing it. You get her and Shay together, they're both doing it. Obviously, Rori's really good at it.
Locked On Women's Basketball, your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest story of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. And, you know, to have somebody like Rori, I mean, it gives you that luxury, right, of being able to bring in offensive-minded players. You know, so Sonia Morris, obviously, you know, somebody who played for Doug Bruno, who obviously understands how to score the basketball. Shaylee Gonzalez knows how to score the basketball. You know, even somebody like a Taylor Jones, who's going to be able to score around the rim. You know, is there that extra level of confidence of understanding you can bring in these offensive players, knowing that Rori's going to be able to handle finding the players and making sure you're getting to everybody at their spots?
Yeah, I think Rori will be really good at it. She understands it. She gets it. You know, we're still developing chemistry with this group. You know, we've had some injuries and some kids that haven't practiced in 2 weeks. And so we've got to get through that right now. I think we will, but my problem is that I don't have the luxury of playing 5 or 10 3-name directional schools early to get through it until I can get everybody healthy. I'm at Connecticut, second game of the year. Got to open in the Bahamas with Marquette, potentially play any number of top 5, top 10, top 20 teams, whether it's South Dakota State, UCLA, Louisville, Tennessee. You know, so we're in a pinch right now in trying to get a really new team together, to play our way and learn a new system. And so it's a big challenge right now. I was up at 4 this morning, and when I say up, I still hadn't fallen asleep, worrying, you know, and trying to figure out how we can get this on the fast track. So, but hey, it's fine. We'll get better, and we may have a few battle wounds early, but we'll get better and we'll learn from it.
You're not even going easy on yourself with the home schedule. You got Princeton coming your way. You got South Florida coming your way. That's
what I try to tell people. Like, they're going, "Hey, your home schedule." I'm like, "What about it?" Right. I got 2 NCAA tournament teams right there. One's in the top 25 preseason. South Florida's always good. Jose does a great job. I got to go play USC, Southern Cal, and Dallas. I mean, I'm going to Jackson State. To play there. We all know what they did last year. We had a knockdown drag out with them here. Then they go in the NCAA tournament and should have beat LSU.
Should have.
So, I mean, we've got all we want in non-conference. But I think this team will benefit from it. And I think this team is highly competitive. Like they're full of competitive kids. It's just, my job to get them to play together and have that chemistry with one another. It's really been fun watching them in practice, feed off each other and celebrate each other's success. You don't get that sometimes when you've got maybe kids that have an itinerary coming to a place for their last year or 2 years in college. They've already been somewhere. They're really looking for something specific, and so it's really been fun for me. We're just a long way from where I think we'll end up being, but we're going to have to get on that tough road early and find out a little bit about ourselves.
As somebody whose job it is to cover such things, I'm delighted by all the early schedule, as difficult as it may be. But to that end, right, you have a really interesting class, and you talked a little bit about Jack Alenga, Wenentanda, Amina Muhammad coming in as well. It's obviously a very talented freshman class, but it's also not fair to expect freshmen typically to do what Rori Harmon does. And I'm just curious, where your freshmen are in terms of the pecking order at this point and what you think are realistic expectations for them.
Hey, well, those two are going to play. And that's what's exciting for me. That's that's part of our future. And both those kids are super tough, competitive kids. Like, and I love them both. They're my kind of players, man. They are tough, physical, aggressive players, confident. Like Amina Muhammad hadn't lost a game in like 2 years and played at the highest level in Texas on back-to-back state championship teams. Jock Alenga is finally healthy. She didn't run really healthy last summer. She had a good season obviously in South Dakota. She's Gatorade Player of the Year. But you're talking about a big guard that can handle it, scores with both hands. Really, again, just a competitive kid. So I'm excited for them. I don't know that you can, like you said, we've got other people that can do some things from an offensive standpoint. Big thing for me with them is just getting them to be able to do what I want to do defensively. And as well as I do, freshmen are never that good on that end. Rori was the exception. But that's the challenge that I have. With them is just getting them comfortable and understanding. I think Jock Alenga played a lot of zone in high school, and so she's having to get used to that. And then Amina comes from a really, really good, well-coached high school team, as does Jock Alenga, but they played a lot of man. Sure. And so, but it still didn't make it any easier. But I'm blessed. Both those kids come from great programs, great high school coaches, and so they've come in understanding what work ethic is.
And it's one thing to play man defense, another one to play Vic Schaefer defense. And so having a coaching staff that's putting that together, I just have to ask you, I am still, one of my fondest memories is covering your teams, is covering a certain Blair Shaffer, who was as good as anyone I ever saw at taking charges. Who was, a coach on the floor. So it's no surprise, obviously, to see her in coaching as well, for her to get that promotion this summer, for you to have the chance to be working with her on a day-to-day basis. We know what she brings to the table as a basketball person. What's that been like for you, just as a father too?
Well, just like as a player, she's earned her way.
Yeah.
When we think about her as a player at 5'6", and we'll be generous there, being on the all defensive team in the Southeastern Conference. I mean, wow, that you just, and again, she took 90 charges in her career. She probably got ran over another 90 times and either had no calls or blocking fouls called. Played her senior year with a chip bone in her shoulder, never missed a game. Played more minutes than anybody her senior year, was MVP of the regional her junior year in Starkville. So, but it didn't start that way. Played 6 to 8 minutes a game her freshman year, played 29 out of 34 games. Sophomore year, played all 34 games, but still only played 8 to 10 minutes a game. Thought about transferring,
right, at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's what's right with college athletics, in my opinion, because, she could have done that. I told her as her coach, hey, you can go to any mid-major you want to go to right now. You won't have to do anything different. You'll probably be all conference, and you don't have to do one thing more than what you're doing. But if you want to play in the Southeastern Conference, you got to change. I can't play you at the expense of my team. I just can't. I'm people will see through that. Nobody wants to play you more than me, but I can't do that. You got to stop turning the ball over. You got to make a shot, and you got to defend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was her three big issues. And so she said, okay, how do I do that? And so we came up with a plan, and she went to work that summer and made herself into a Southeastern Conference player. And then let's fast forward. She graduates. I tried to get her to go in coaching when she graduated. She wanted to do the TV thing, goes to work for the SEC network and ESPN, calls basketball games that whole first year. And then, realized, what? I think coaching is my calling. And so she's our director of player development at Mississippi State. Comes here to Texas and was going to be in the same role. And my director of basketball operations didn't come at the last minute. And so she kind of jumped into that role to kind of get us through some time.
Mm-hmm.
She was so doggone good at it, I couldn't get her out of it. I mean, if you were to ask our players the last 2 years, they'd probably tell you Blair did more for them than anybody, just because she was always there, for whatever they needed, she was there for them. And, I've had my administration tell me, hey, we've traveled with every team under the sun. Some of them said, I've been traveling with teams 20, 30 years. Your program runs smoother when y'all travel than any team I've ever been with. That's Blair.
Yeah. Just
attention to detail and no time, doesn't wear a watch, no clock on the wall, just works until it gets done. And since, this summer, let's go back to the spring then, I hired Sydney Carter from A&M, who played for me on that national championship team. Her, Blair, and Elena, they're the ones that signed those 54 points and 27 rebounds out of the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be some kind of record. And but those are the three, that were our full-time coaches at the time that did that. And so she wants to coach. She's really good at it. She's obviously been around my staff, Johnny Harris, Elena Lovato, Deanna Jackson. She knows what we want, how we want it. And she's heard it all a million times. And so I just think it was, I think it was appropriate and it's well-deserved. But again, she's earned it. And give my athletic director and our president here at Texas, give them credit for making it happen. And, she understands the scrutiny that might come with that, just like when she was a player.
Mm-hmm.
And we both welcome it. And there's no question in my mind. I mean, she's already doing it from a recruiting standpoint with Elena and Wiz to what she's doing from a player perspective, working with them. It's going to be fun to watch the growth there, and she's going to be a great head coach one day.
No doubt about it. I mean, no real question where she gets the work ethic from, and the postscript on the stat side of it, playing with a chip in her shoulder senior year, 41.3% from 3-point range. Just an incredible triumph.
Pretty tough kid.
Yeah, of will over physical problems she came in with. So just wonderful to see. Well, Vic Schaefer, it is delightful to see you. We're going to let you go so you can, keep working, maybe get some sleep at some point. I wish that for you.
April.
And, we'll look forward to seeing you down at Texas. I'll make sure to get down there as soon as I can. To our listeners, thank you for making us your first listen every single day. And make sure you check out Locked On Sports Today, which gives you the biggest stories for the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and tape of the day. It's available with the Odyssey app as well. So we'll be back with you tomorrow, as we are every weekday. I am Howard Megdal, wishing you a wonderful day.